सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। So last class there was an abrupt stopping. So we were discussing about selfishness of Duryodhana, and the whole verse of Duryodhana, where he devotes 3 to 4 verses on praising the opposition, and probably one verse only for his own presence, only for his own team. That's all, nothing else. So in that, we were discussing about one of the shlokas, famous shlokas of the Dhyana shlokas. Bhishma, Drona, Tata, both are the shores, the tat, and there are various participants in between. And the last, I think so, we were covering was Duryodhana Vartini. Vartini is like a whirlpool. So anybody, exactly like a whirlpool, when you are entering into the peripheral area of the whirlpool, we don't even know that the whirlpool is there, but it keeps on dragging us, and until it is too late. This was exactly the influence of Duryodhana. He used to take advantage of people around to such a level that they would not even know that they were taken advantage of. He was the master strategist according to plan. Right from childhood, he knew there is going to be a war. He knew there is going to be a war because I cannot exist or coexist with these people. For that, when Karna challenged Arjuna in a particular tournament and he was not allowed to participate, he immediately saw the potential. Duryodhana saw the potential in Karna and how he can help him. Therefore, he elevated him to the king of Anga. When he saw that Dronacharya is the teacher and he has a son Ashwatthama, then he became the best friends with Ashwatthama by giving him money and enjoyment and everything, so that Ashwatthama, the boy, doesn't go anywhere, leaving Duryodhana. And since the boy is attached to the father, Dronacharya, where is Dronacharya going to go? This was the aggression of the mental attitude of Duryodhana. So anybody coming in his vicinity, it's gone. All these are the rivers. Oh Keshava, oh Krishna, you help us cross this easily. That's the particular verse in the Dhyana shlokas. So Duryodhana is saying only one, and Kripacharya and all these are masters. They are, nobody can defeat them. And all that in one verse indicates how less faith he has in his own team. This is what happened. The first step of weakness is where you look outside and start saying, they are much stronger than us. At present, the same thing is happening. There are positives in my mind, but my mind keeps on saying the negatives at present, whatever is happening around, far outweighs the positives. So he starts. And then Duryodhana starts talking about his team versus their team. And then he says to Dronacharya, listen, all of you do one thing. He's commanding his second officer. You surround Bhishma and see to it that he is safe. This is the condition. Bhishma Pitama, who says that he is Ichha Mrityu, I can't die. Duryodhana is afraid even for that person, because he knows that Bhishma Pitama was the one who was collecting the neighboring kings to support Duryodhana. In fact, Bhishma went to each kingdom around and said that if you don't support us after the war, if we win, see what happens to you, exactly like the government. Any government of a country does. If you are supporting at this time, thank you. If you don't, see what happens to you, you know. So the same attitude. So all the people who were supporting Duryodhana were supporting out of fear of Bhishma. And Duryodhana knew that if Bhishma decides to die and he surrenders himself, then the war is over, because all those kings who were supporting will go away and they will lose. So all of you support Bhishma only. When Bhishma heard this, he got so angry, because he was thinking all these thoughts and talks are supposed to be done in the planning and the programming stages before the war. This should not be discussed right in between where we are in the battlefield. So to just remind him that it is time for action, Bhishma picks up his conch and starts blowing it. Everybody start. Then there is this loud noise of the war. Everybody's drumming and kettle horns and all these things are going on. And in all these horns, they showed that Yudhishthira also picks up a conch and plays. Then Krishna also picks up a conch. Everybody does. It's a kolahal going on. And in between all this noise, there is a chariot that comes. This is the first time. See, at that time, there was no theater. There was no play. So all Vyasa had in his hand was the pen. So to draw a picture while writing is difficult, but that's what he did. He says, when all this noise is going on, there is tremendous noise and everybody is ready to fight, geared up to fight. There comes a chariot. And in that chariot, it's a magnificent chariot. Thousands of chariots must be there in the battlefield. Magnificent chariot represents in English what we call transferred epithet. The person who is sitting in the chariot is so magnificent that it is transferred to an inanimate object, the chariot itself. So that person, that chariot is magnificent. And in that chariot, who is this? Krishna driving the chariot. Behind him is sitting or standing, in fact, Arjuna with bow and arrow ready to fight. This is the scene. Lot of noise. Kaurava team is this side, Pandava team is this side, and from Pandava side, Krishna comes driving the chariot. Behind, Arjuna is standing, all ready for battle. And then he says the famous verses of Arjuna. Arjuna uvacha senayo rubhayo madhye ratham sthapaya mechada. Oh Krishna, do one thing. Oh charioteer, do one thing. Take me right in between the forces of the Kauravas and Pandavas. Let me face the Kauravas. Let me see who all are there whom I must fight in this battle. And the emphasis is in the word must fight. Whom all I must fight. Krishna immediately understands the tone with which Arjuna is talking. And he takes the chariot. The chariot is represented in the Vedanta philosophy. In one of the Upanishads it is said, the 5 horses represents the 5 sense organs. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin. And gathering these Vishayas from outside are the reins which you hold on to. The reins is called the mind. And the mind is held firmly by the charioteer, which is the intellect. So the intellect is the charioteer, that which reasons, that which thinks, holding on to the whims and fancies, and mind which functions on likes and dislikes, which is connected to all the sense organs. If the horses, if the senses are going in a particular direction, the mind is reined properly, the intellect is in control, then the person, Arjuna sitting behind, who is the Jivatma, and the chariot, the physical personality, reaches a particular destination. It fulfills its life. But if the intellect is sleeping, Most of the time it is sleeping. So if the intellect is sleeping, Krishna is sleeping inside, the reins leave its strength. The reins become loosened. And as the reins become loosened, each and every Vishaya, each and every Indriya will go on its own way. There cannot be any particular direction where the horses are running. If that happens, then the Jivatma sitting behind Arjuna is completely destroyed, as well as the chariot gives way. This is the symbolism of the whole chariot. So here he says, take me between these two armies to see that portion, those Kauravas whom I must fight in this outbreaking battle. Krishna understands. That's the beauty. He takes the chariot. If he had taken the, so I told you, I'm showing you a pictorial representation. Kaurava is here, Pandavas are here. In between this passage is the no man's zone. There Krishna takes and makes him face the Kauravas. So he is not facing the Kauravas, he is standing this way. Kauravas are here, Pandavas are here. So Arjuna can see both the sides like this. And as he sees both the sides, Krishna takes the chariot right beside the Kaurava Maharathis. He doesn't take it beside Dushasan. He doesn't take it beside Karna. Karna was not there at that time in the battlefield. He doesn't take it before Duryodhana. He takes it right opposite Dronacharya and Bhishma. The two personalities whom he must fight. Because he said, I must fight. If he had said, I want to fight, the question, the answer would be, okay, you go and fight Duryodhana. Whom all I must fight represents where his mind has slack. It's gone down. And there, Arjuna looks and he sees these two Mahatmas standing. And he looks opposite and he sees all his army. And his army, his brothers, his in-laws, his father, all in-laws, various in-laws, children, everybody related to him. And he knows Dronacharya cannot be destroyed because he is the teacher who taught him how to fight. Bhishma cannot be killed because it's Iksha Mrityu. If these two people start fighting, all these people who are standing here have no chance of survival. Therefore, hiding behind the loyalty and grandeur of how can I kill my Guru and Pitamaha, the real fear is what will happen to them. There, Arjuna starts. What does he see? He doesn't see Kauravas with Bhishma, Drona, everybody, Kripacharya, all these people, and say that these are adharmic people, these are unrighteous people, and therefore this war, and in this war, these people need to be finished off. Unrighteousness is supposed to be finished off. Now, a very important point, I got a question recently saying that each character in the Mahabharata has got some virtues and vice. Correct. Every character. That's the character. It's like life. So everybody. Our exercise, now listen to this carefully. Our exercise is not to praise good characters in the bad to such a level that you negate the bad traits of the bad person. Remember. So many times people are saying Duryodhana was very virtuous and he was better than most of the Pandavas. Or Karna is very virtuous, better than Arjuna and better than anybody. So the virtues in the wrong personalities. People are good. That's not the idea. The idea is however good they are, which side are they supporting? Even my own father, even my own Pitamaha, Bhishma, even my own Guru, If they are supporting unrighteousness, then you have a fight in your hands, however good so-called they are. So our judgment from each and every character is Duryodhana had these plus points, Arjuna had these negative points, Dushasana had these negative points or plus points, but at the end, which side are they standing? Are they standing in the form of righteousness or unrighteousness? Are they standing with God, the higher values, or other than God? Are they belong to the category of wise or are they otherwise? That determines how the character is. So a person may be good as much as he can, but if they are siding wrong, then in Hindi there is a kahavat, गेहूं के साथ गुड़ भी पिस जाते हैं. गेहूं के साथ sometimes wrong thing, good people also get destroyed because they are choosing the wrong side. That is the reason they say it is better to always sustain and live under righteousness. We'll continue this. So he states there, and he sees not unrighteous and righteous, for which the fight was. Righteous, these are unrighteous people, not because they took my kingdom. These are unrighteous people because they are vicious and selfish per se, and under their rule, nobody was happy. Therefore, the fight was there. Fight was not there for my kingdom and your kingdom. The fight was which one is right and which one is wrong. When he looks here, he sees all his relatives who are going to be killed by these Mahatmas, and there he starts crying. I am having a fever, my lips are parched, I don't know what to do. Gandiva. Gandiva is the bow which was gifted to him by Lord Shiva. Gandiva falls from my hand, I don't know what to do. And then he starts beautifully the whole first chapter trying to teach Krishna, who's considered to be the Godhead in this story, of what should be done and should not be done. It's a beautiful passage. He starts the discussion by saying that, Krishna, you know, we are about to do something which is so sinful. We are doing great pap by entering into a fight. In fact, there are a lot of religion, even now, a lot of people who say that Krishna did wrong by telling Arjuna or instigating Arjuna that you are supposed to fight. First of all, Krishna never instigated about anything. He just taught. But what was Arjuna's state? Arjuna did not want to fight a war, not because war was bad, because before this, he had fought hundreds of wars. And in those hundreds of wars, he had killed many people. He had orphaned many children and widowed many women. So it is not about war. It is about my people will die. And that's the thought, selfishness. What will happen to my son, my daughter, what will, as soon as this minus comes, problem stops. Because now you have started wearing the glasses of what I like, what I feel, what I am supposed to do. And with these glasses, you can never see the world properly. He starts by saying, we are going to commit ghora papa, O Krishna. How come we have fallen to this level? You know what is going to happen when this war starts? You don't have any idea. Let me explain this to you. And he starts this concept of not seeing things as they are and living in an illusion of your own. This all of us go through. This specific specimen of a personality, this quality is called Smashana Vairagya. Smashana Vairagya is when somebody dies, you take that dead body of that person into Smashana, cremation ground. All the people are there and everybody talks about that person. He was such a good person. Bichara, he died. Suddenly it happened, leaving wife and 2 children, or vice versa, leaving a husband and 2 children. This happened so suddenly. Poor guy. After all, what is life here? Life is like this only. It comes and it goes. This is the way life is. What is the use of all the money? Tell me. You have all the money and suddenly you get and you go off. What is the use? It's useless. All the property, money, relationship, nothing works. I tell you, ये सब एक दिन छोड़ के जाना ही है सबको. Everybody needs to go. Life is like this only. While you are in a cremation ground, and as soon as nowadays, though, it's in the cremation ground itself, you have to take a mobile phone so that you can connect the world. Or when you get out, you are back to where you belong. What happened about that business deal? What happened about this relationship? You are back with a bang in the world. So all the so-called renunciation, the attitude of resignation that this is what life is. See, such a rich man is burning like this. What to do? This is the way. All that goes within 2 minutes. This is called Smashana Vairagya. Once upon a time, one man went to meet Kabir. So he knocked on the door. His wife opened. And she said, yes, what can I do for you? I have come to meet Saint Kabir. Oh, okay. He's gone to the cremation ground. Somebody has died nearby, so he's gone to the cremation ground. Okay. You can find him there. She closes the door. Then he knocks again and says, excuse me, this is the first time I'm coming. I've never seen Kabir. So how do I recognize him? He says, it's very easy, When you go there, he is the only person who will have a halo around his head. With that halo, golden light around his head, you will recognize that this is Kabir. So, acha. So he goes. After half an hour, he comes back. The same guy. He knocks and says, Maji, sorry, I'm disturbing again. No, boliye kya hai? When I went to the cremation ground, everybody's head has a halo around it. All of them. So the lady laughed, the wife of Kabir, and said, yeah, you are right. So I should have changed it that way. When everybody comes out of cremation ground, that person where the halo is there around the head, that person is Kabir. The rest all goes away. You are recognized, your spirituality is recognized not when everything is all right. That, like Mahatma Gandhi put it beautifully, any fool can find Shanti in Shanti. Any fool can find Shanti in Shanti. It takes a wise person to find Shanti in Ashanti. Husband is all right, wife is all right, son is all right, daughter is all right, grandchildren are all right, society is all right, government is all right, the relay is all right, Zoom is all right, everything is all right. So I am happy. Big deal. Any ant will be happy. Even if one of them gets knocked off, are you all right? Any fool can find Shanti in Shanti. So this is Smashana Vairagya. At present, I don't want to fight. And Krishna understood this beautifully. He starts reasoning to Krishna. You know what will happen if we fight? I will tell you. Once the fight starts, all the men will die. Correct. In a fight, people who are there will die. Some people will die. Yes. You know, when men dies, what happens? When a human being, when man dies, he says personally, man, Purusha, when man dies, all the rituals are stopped. Because even now, we do the same thing. We have come to 20th century, but still belong to the same category. It's only a man who does rituals. Everything. So if a father dies or a mother dies, it is the son who is supposed to do the ritual, not the daughter. Nowadays, it should change. It should change. But it is not. All the men, all the rituals. So who will perform the rituals? Nobody will perform the rituals. Men will die. So nobody will be there to do rituals. When nobody will die, do rituals, simple rituals, everyday rituals, then what will happen? Everybody will have no faith in God. Dharma will be destroyed. Dharma means that which needs to be done to sustain a particular society will be destroyed. Dharma will be destroyed. Dharma will be destroyed. Then what happens? Adharma will come up. Wrong things will come up. People who believe in corruption, killing, hitting, thieving, all these wrong concepts of this is the way life should lead so that I, the individual, can be happy, will come up. Adharma will rise. Oh Krishna, what a great Papa we were supposed to do. By God, thank God we are thinking. When adharma rises, what happens? Women will get corrupt. Because there is nobody to guide womankind as if they need guidance. There is nobody to guide dharma. Therefore, women will get corrupt. And when women will get corrupt, what will happen? Oh my God. Then, since they can't think properly, they will choose whoever they want to get married. There will be intercaste marriages, interracial marriages. The Brahmin child will get married to Rajasic personality. The Rajasic personality will get married to a Brahmin person. The Vaishyas will get married to all these castes. Everything will get mixed. Krishna, understand what I'm talking. So high knowledge. Everything will get mixed. Women will get corrupt. And in that corruption, whichever family they go, they will spread adharma. And the future generation will come, will be adharmic. They will not belong to any caste. They will not belong to any religion. Chah, is this the way one lives? That will happen, Krishna. And adharma will come again. He started by saying, human beings, men will die. Dharma will stop. Adharma will come. He comes back again to adharma will only be there. Dharma will disappear. Therefore, Krishna, let us decide not to commit any sin anymore. And he looks at Krishna. And the beauty of this master, that is why I'm saying master, is he doesn't utter a word. By the end of the chapter 1, Arjuna just sits down and he puts his Gandiva, bow and arrow down. He just puts it down. He doesn't say, I don't want to fight. He doesn't say, I want to fight. He just says, I am depressed, dejected, and completely tired. I am not able to do anything. There is no way I can be motivated to carry on any action, forget a particular war. And he leaves it. He sits there. As he sits, immediately there is no sentence from the same thing. Why we are doing all this chapter 1 about intercaste and this, because this is what people quote even now, and they have the gall to say that this is all written in the Bhagavad Gita. You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is written that if we fight, then men will get destroyed, adharma will come up, and the woman will get corrupted, and corrupt woman will get into intermarriage. All these things are repeated even now in our country by saying it is written, it is there in our scriptures, Bhagavad Gita. Hey, they are right. They are completely right. It is written in the Bhagavad Gita, but they fail to understand who's saying it. It is Arjuna who's saying it. And when Arjuna is going through all this full blast, you know we should not sin, you know we should, this will happen, that will happen, adharma will come, blah, blah. Kulakshaya krutam dosham, with the destruction of the family. 7 times, 8 times he keeps on repeating this statement. Kulakshaya krutam, the destroying of the family, you know, this will happen. Destroying of the family, this will happen. In and through all that, Krishna keeps quiet. I went to one of the shops, a spiritual book shop. And since I was in uniform, the person recognized me and said, "So what are you doing?" I said, "We just discuss a little bit of Bhagavad Gita or scripture concepts, you know." So, acha, acha, acha. And he is the shop owner, you know, a young boy, college boy. So he started asking, "I wanted to ask you, which is your favorite chapter?" So I just asked, "Which is your favorite chapter?" Yeah, fun loving. So he said, "My favorite chapter is second chapter, Sankhya Yoga. It is one of the best chapters. And the 13th chapter, Kshetra Kshetragnya, that is also superb. Bhakti Yoga is also very good. Huh? Chapter 11 is also very good. But these are my favorite chapters because Sankhya Yoga, beautiful verses. He talks about living and dying and everything, Krishna. And he gave me a 15-minute lecture. When we don't have a chance to talk, we enjoy that. So he's just sitting and listening like it. Then he asked me playfully, "What is your favorite lecture? What is your favorite chapter?" I said, "Chapter 1.